All right, chat. Who's the richest person in history? I'm the richest person in this chat. You're all poor. Sorry, I'm lying. I feel like we're all rich though. See, because y'all talking about money. Why is it always about money? Shut up. We're all rich, bro. With happiness. Shut your stupid. Elon Musk, 400 billion. I'm gonna call this guy Hitter. Yo, Hitter, 3 trillion. That's a lot of money. Respectfully, that does make sense. He had the whole country underneath him, I guess. And then King Caesar salad, Julius Caesar, 100 trillion. That makes sense, bro. Back then they had mad gold, mad diamonds, mad platinum. And yeah, salt was worth a lot of money. Let's check it out.
If someone with an average salary wanted Elon Musk's net worth, they would have to work for 8 million years. That's 30 times longer than human beings have existed. And in the time it's taken me to tell you this, Elon has made another $100,000.
Oh my God.
But the craziest—
how long was that? 16 seconds, he already made 100,000. Chat, y'all not touching 100,000 in y'all lifetime. Yo, why am I being so negative, bro? Hey, chat, listen, I pray that y'all get the monions, bro. Get your money up, not your funny up, bro. Y'all got this. Come on, lock in.
Thing about Elon is that he's not even the richest person in history. He's actually not even close. If you look back in time, there are people that make Elon look broke.
Ooh, Genghis Khan.
So let's go find the richest human to ever exist.
Mansa
starting
Musa
in the
sound?
late 80s with a Colombian billionaire who revolutionized the energy supplement industry. Pablo Escobar, at his peak, was supplying 80% of the world's motivation powder. He was raking in 420 million a week, but his net worth after inflation only reached 80 billion. So on paper, he's not even—
only reached 80 billion. Yo, that's good, especially for the time period. 420 million at that time. Oh my God. What do you even do with that money? Pablo, at some point, yo, you could have done this for 1 week or maybe just a month. And you good, bro. You good. Wow, in 89, that's actually impressive, bro. I'll give him that. That's actually impressive because what is the logistics of all this? You feel what I'm saying? And he handled that. Obviously, he did a lot of bad stuff and stuff like that. So, you can't give him too much praise, but that's impressive.
Only reached 80 billion. So on paper, he's not even beating Elon. But unlike everyone else in this video, Pablo's wealth wasn't tied up in stocks or politics. He just had literal dollars.
Oh my
He was
God.
spending $1,000 a week on rubber bands just to hold them together, and damage to them cost him $2 billion a year. So Pablo wasn't the richest person in history overall, but if we're talking actual cash, he probably was. But let's go back in time to see a very different kind of wealth. The year is 1945. World War II just ended, and in America, millions of soldiers are coming home. They'll return to a blue-collar economy, where families can be supported on a single income. The American dream is alive and well. How's everyone else doing? It's in these ruins where we'll find one of the richest men to ever live.
Really?
Joseph Stalin, the communist ruler of the Soviet Union, was uninterested in money. He had practically no personal possessions outside of his pipes, books, and plain military tunic. He did live much better.
Yeah, any communist leader or any tyrant or any, anybody in that position of power to lead, yeah, they're pretty rich because everything and everyone is underneath them in that country or state or whatever it is.
Than his citizens having access to things like food, but he wasn't basking in luxury. His pay stubs show him making today's equivalent of $30K a month, but according to his son, he just let the checks pile up on his desk and he probably didn't even have a savings account. The reason Stalin is considered one of the richest men in history, despite technically having no money, is because he didn't need money. He already owned the entire state.
Exactly.
Doing anything that questioned his power, even something like telling a private joke, would get you gulagged or executed.
What?
Stalin had so much control that after he had a fatal stroke, no one called a doctor for 12 hours because everyone was too scared of Stalin waking up and punishing them for acting without official orders. So despite being broke on paper, Stalin had complete control over an economy that would today be worth $10 trillion. See, in order to find the richest person in history, we need to think bigger than just money.
I don't understand dictators though. Bro, you're taking the freedom, you're taking the soul out of your people. The only reason why you're a dictator, I guess, is because people are stupid enough to even want to follow you. But he placed himself in a position of power, so if anybody goes against that, they'll die. So maybe fear and stuff like that. But why are you leading like that? You're not even leading people at some point. You're just leading bodies, a soulless body. If they don't follow, they die. Exactly. I understand. It's just stupid that, like, what's the point then?
To think bigger than just money. Every person in this video will represent a different time period and a different form of wealth, whether it be political power or cash or company equity. And in the end, only one will be determined as the richest person in history. So let's move on to our next contender.
Mansa Musa, bro. That gold.
In 1909, Adolf Hitler was
guy.
homeless. He had moved to Vienna to pursue his dream of becoming an artist, but things weren't really working out. He got rejected from art school and found himself selling small paintings and postcards just to get by and sleeping in hostels. Then, after fighting in the First World War and beginning his political involvement, he attempted to forcefully overthrow the government, which got him locked up for 9 months.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll use these 9 months to reflect and reform and turn himself into a better person. He wrote Mein Kampf. Upon release in 1925, the Racism Manifesto...
Very daggum. Yo, he was locked in that prison for real. Yeah, okay.
The Racism Manifesto met with mediocre sales, but as Germany's situation declined, Mein Kampf's popularity grew. And when Hitler took power in 1933, the book was everywhere. It was also around this time when Hitler realized he had access to developer commands. He instructed the government to buy 6 million copies of his own book and hand them out to soldiers, government officials, and newlyweds. He then avoided a $2 million bill by making himself tax exempt. His next lick was copyrighting his own image, which allowed him to collect royalties on every postage stamp sold in Nazi Germany. Then he copyrighted his speeches so he could collect money when they were printed in the news. These passive income streams made Hitler millions. By the end of his life, Mein Kampf had sold around 10 million copies, which actually isn't an insane amount. For reference, he was outsold 3-1 by Anne Frank, but Hitler did have one last.
Oh my God. I want to laugh. Actually, I will. I like Yo, bro. Son. Yo, son. Do you not see the correlation here? Bro was so...
an insane amount. For reference, he was outsold 3-1 by Anne Frank.
Outsold by Anne Frank, bro. The shorty in the attic. That's not funny, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, but I just think like that's pretty crazy.
3-1 by Anne Frank. But
What
Hitler
are the
did
chances?
have one last side hustle.
The irony,
Between
right?
1933 and 1945, it was estimated that he received over $5 billion in donations from his supporters, most of this coming from wealthy businessmen.
Oh,
It's
wow.
impressive how much personal money Hitler was able to milk out of his position, but his real wealth came from his military might. At its
Exactly.
peak in 1942, Nazi Germany controlled nearly all of Europe, stealing hundreds of billions in resources and putting millions of people into forced labor. So through his conquests, Hitler commanded resources worth $3 trillion in today's dollars.
Oh, wow.
But before dictators,
That's like not... I was expecting it to be more because, again, when there's a dictator, someone completely in charge of everything and anything, technically, you know what I'm saying? Like, you own everything. And I just thought the economy, I guess, for Germany would be, yeah, booming. I guess not.
dictators, there was a man building a very different type of empire. Henry Ford had a revelation. If you pay them more and let them sleep, your slaves won't revolt. In 1914, Henry made the radical decision to...
That's called labor, by the way. We kind of still live in this sense. That's a whole topic of its own, but when I was working, you know, I generally thought something was wrong with that minimum wage. Like, I just couldn't, chat, in order for me to save money, I had to force myself to not eat. Does that not click with y'all? I had to take a step back and tell myself, bro, I don't want to work for people ever again. Like, I just cannot. And I'm so like happy and blessed that like YouTube and streaming and stuff like that is able to allow me to do this full time. Because, bro, if you just take a step back real quick, bro. What were slaves and what are workers? Workers are just slaves who get paid and are able to, I guess, in a sense, afford to sleep in a bed. That's how I saw it, bro. Whenever I was like, bro, there's just no way. The minimum wage is not enough. If we aren't doing only money, then maybe it's Genghis Khan. Ooh, that's true. Yeah, I think that's true. Like territory wise.
Henry Ford had a revelation. If you pay them more and let them sleep, your slaves won't revolt.
Yeah.
In 1914, Henry made the radical decision to double wages from $2.50 to $5 a day.
Oof.
He then cut the work week from 6 days to 5 days.
Oof.
After seeing the operations of meatpacking plants, Ford organized his workers in a line, an assembly line, What resulted was production time for the Ford Model T dropping from 12 hours to 90 minutes. Prices dropped from $850 to $290. And for 50 years, the Model T was the most sold car in history. But Ford's greatest invention wasn't the assembly line or the Model T. See, after Ford made automobiles accessible to the masses, people began moving outside of cities and driving back and forth to work. And after the success of Ford's mass production methods, they were widely copied by companies and countries. The suburbs, commuting, and the modern work schedule can all be traced back to Henry Ford, which is why many credit him as the inventor of the middle class. So despite his measly $200 billion personal net worth, Ford's massive influence might make him the richest person in history. But Henry's success—
Oh yeah, so you're right, E-Man. I don't think he's just doing money. He's probably doing influence, power, territory, stuff like that. So it could be Genghis Khan or Julius Caesar. Yeah, hold on.
Was only possible thanks to the men who came before him. It's the late 1800s. The telephone, telegraph, and light bulb are currently being invented. Pollution is awesome. Child labor is legal. Yes!
What the?
Regulations don't exist.
What? Did you just break character? Bro, what is wrong with you, bro? What the hell?
Awesome. Child labor is legal. Yes! Regulations don't exist. Long hours and unsafe working equipment give employees a healthy work-death balance. The stage is set for maximum capitalism. 3 men would define this era. The OG being Cornelius Vanderbilt, who conquered the railroad industry and died with more money than the US Treasury. The next was Andrew Carnegie, who made a fortune with steel, then devoted the rest of his life to philanthropy. And this was during a time before charity tax advantages. He actually meant that shit. But the richest of the 3 was John D. Rockefeller. In 1870, John founded Standard Oil. He quickly curb-stomped his competitors through innovation and screwing them over. And
they literally started the Industrial Revolution, no? Or am I bugging? Yo, these guys had manians.
In the 1880s, he controlled 90% of America's oil refining. But his empire fell in 1911, when the US Supreme Court declared Standard Oil an illegal monopoly and ordered it to be broken up into 34 new companies. This judicial punishment destroyed Rockefeller's fortune, and he ended up dying in poverty. Just kidding. After the breakup, he had ownership in each of the new companies and their stock values soared, making him richer than ever before. The antitrust breakup resulted in Rockefeller becoming the world's first billionaire. And at his peak in 1913, he was worth 2% of the US GDP. Estimates of his personal worth
Chat, a billionaire back in 1870? Yo, nah, he was really doing his thing. I ain't gonna lie. And I know his family still now, like if you hear Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, all these names, you know they got manians.
Today's dollars range from 4 to 600 billion, making him potentially the richest person ever. But before the robber barons, there was a family who bankrolled entire empires. The year is 1744. The United States doesn't exist yet. The life expectancy is 30. Cities are full of shit. There's no electricity. In a small Jewish—
Chat, when was the Declaration of Independence signed? Fast, go! Remember, he just said that America's not even a thing yet. When was the Declaration of Independence signed? 1774, 72, 67, 2001. Chat, when is Independence Day? When is July 4th? Sorry, I'm thinking of 9/11. All right.
Family who bankrolled entire empires.
Y'all are funny,
The year is 1744. The United States doesn't exist yet. The life expectancy is 30. Cities are full of shit.
That's crazy.
There's no electricity. In a small Jewish ghetto, Mayor Amschel Rothschild is born. He starts in business at a young age, working his way up from being a rare coin dealer to a successful banker. Then in the early 1800s, he launches a conquest. He sends his 5 sons to the 5 key financial centers of Europe. Every son does their part, and before the invention of the telephone, the Rothschilds have established the first international banking network.
Wow.
They finance wars and peacetime recovery, pay for massive projects like the Suez Canal, and give out loans that save countries' economies. But the Rothschilds have one serious problem. For centuries, Jews in Europe had been prohibited from owning land, blocked out of most industries, and at risk of property confiscation or exile. So in order to ensure their survival, the Rothschilds invested in stocks, bonds, and debts, rather than just tangible assets like gold or real estate that could have been taken or destroyed. Another method they used to ensure their wealth stayed within the family, the cousin technique. Through financial tactics and incest, the Rothschilds managed—
What? Rothschild married cousins? Anything for money, huh?
to mostly avoid persecution. But the extent of their wealth today is widely debated. Some estimates have claimed the Rothschilds have a current net worth of $500 trillion.
Rothschild, that does sound familiar. Are they in any way, shape, or form involved with like BlackRock and Vanguard and those things? Why does that actually sound so familiar? Like you hear about them now. We own nearly every central bank in the world. Oh, we finance both sides of every war since Napoleon. Okay, maybe that's why. Honestly, they saw an opportunity and, you know, thought of a great plan, I guess. It's kind of crazy how they finance wars, bro. That's insane.
But the only Rothschild you'll find today on the Forbes rich list is Jeff Rothschild. He's worth $3.2 billion. He works at Facebook, and he is not related to the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds no longer have much centralized family wealth, but at their peak, their total worth would have been the largest single fortune in history. On an individual level, the richest ever was Nathan Rothschild. According to estimates, his peak net worth today would be around $20 billion,
That's
but
impressive.
his power and connections would likely have been worth a lot more.
Of course they are, bro. If you financing wars, bro, you literally have your, I guess, your chess pieces out there in the world, bro. You control what can happen in the real world. I find that to be way much worth a lot more than these other people.
And our next contender for the richest person in history, let's go back to Europe in the 1500s.
Damn.
Christopher Columbus just got back from America. The church owns everything. And
Nasty.
Jacob Fugger is born into a wealthy German family. After inheriting the family business, Jacob starts expanding it from merchant trading to banking. And soon he's handing out massive loans to finance everything from art projects to wars and elections.
Yo, Chad, what happened to things? Look how ornate these churches used to be, or still are. Look how beautiful they are. Look at the creativity, the wow. We don't get this anymore. What is going on? There's no beauty anymore. Like, architecture seems bland. Why can't we get stuff like this, man?
Finance everything from art projects to wars and elections. In 1519, he spent the modern equivalent of hundreds of millions of dollars to get Emperor Charles V elected. But when Charles was slow to pay back his debts, Jacob sent him an angry letter reminding him of his place.
It is well known and clear as day that your Imperial Majesty could not have claimed the Roman crown without my help.
Yo, he just called the Imperial Majesty broke. That's crazy. That is crazy, bro. Now we got people stapling shoes to a wall or something for art. Yeah, bro. Nah, it's just building an architecture I feel like just has gotten bland. Like, everything is by a code or I don't know, man. Like when you go outside, I guess for New York, right? You look at these buildings, you're like, wow, we built that. You don't get that a lot anymore. I don't know.
And clear as day,
like architectures and statues and stuff like that. It's just not.
Roman crown without my help.
History repeats itself.
Oh, without me, Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control the House and the Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate. Elon Musk did provide, yeah, he did provide some help. I ain't gonna lie.
Church officials ended up getting in so much debt to Fugger that they started selling heaven passes, called indulgences. This led to a protest, which led to a religious revolution. Fugger had more influence than kings, but he was also a nice guy. He made the first ever social housing complex, and to this day, 150 people still live in these apartments at the cost of $1 a year,
wow,
as well as 3 required daily prayers for the Fugger family. At his peak, Jacob owned 2% of Europe's GDP, which would be around $400 billion today.
Ooh,
but
talk
the
your
richest person
shit.
in history may
Chad, in
have
1500, locked in, man. Locked in. Cause bro, if you go back in time, what do you be doing for fun? Take away the electronics, take away social media, take away gaming, tech, take away what y'all be doing for fun, bro. So I feel like they had to lock in, and he locked in.
further back in time. In 1324, a man went on a pilgrimage across Africa. His name was Mansa Musa, and he was the king of the Mali Empire.
Yeah.
Mali had a lot of salt and a lot of gold. A lot of gold.
A lot,
so much
Chad.
gold that on Musa's pilgrimage, he covered himself, his 60,000 person entourage, and his hundreds of animals with thousands of pounds of gold. And then he handed out so much of that gold that it destabilized local economies.
Bro, I think at some point, I think he was worth 400. Or was it 400? What number did I see? Yeah, like 400 billion, I think.
Gold back, which fixed the problem until he paid all the debts back at once and everything crashed again. After Musa's multi-billion-dollar road trip, he began showing up on maps decked out in gold, cementing his reputation in history as the original flexer. But estimating his net worth is borderline impossible, since all accounts of Musa's trek come from second-hand testimony. It's believed that Musa controlled about half of the world's gold supply, and the most common number I found for his total worth was 400 billion.
Yeah, 400 billion. Oh, yeah, it could be more. Yeah, well, it is more, especially if you translate it to now. But yo, that is a big ass flex, bro. He had himself, the horses, the animals, the entire freaking entourage golded, blinged out, my boy. He was handing out 4PF chains before rappers been doing it, bro.
Many numbers went much higher, so based on the amount of valuable resources under his control, Mansa Musa may be the richest person in history. But go back 100 years and there was a man with a very different kind of wealth. In the early 1200s, Genghis Khan controlled more land than any man in history.
Yo, bro, he owned it, bro. Watch how much land he owned.
His Mongol empire covered almost 20% of Earth's land area.
Bro, 20% of Earth's land area. 20% of the Earth. He was going crazy, bro. W strategist, man.
20% of Earth's land area, making his estimated net worth today 130 trillion. But this is slightly misleading. Genghis never really had much wealth of his own, and this was actually vital to his influence. Rather than taking for himself, war loot was redistributed to soldiers and commanders to promote loyalty. Genghis wore the same clothes and ate the same food as his crew. He slept in tents and asked to be buried with no markings or signs. Genghis Khan didn't really have desire for personal wealth or possessions, but based on his control of land, he may have been the richest guy to ever live.
Definitely.
But let's go even further back in time, to the year 1 AD. The people alive right now have no idea that they're living through a turning point in history. They actually don't even know what year it is. Romans think that it's year 754. Jews think it's 3761.
Bro, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, we don't get stuff like this no more. This type of architecture, like these statues and sculptures and stuff, like this is beautiful. Obviously it's of a man, but like, we don't make this anymore, bro. What's going on, man? We're getting bland and goofy.
Jews think it's 3761. The Chinese think it's year 9. And for the Greeks, it's 194. Every country is kind of doing their own thing. America's building early cities thanks to the Mayans. India's trading through the ocean and Silk Road. China just invented paper. And in Rome, Augustus Caesar is balling. A few years prior, he defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra in battle and snatched up Egypt as his personal property. He now controls around 20% of Rome's economic output, and that includes the tax flows, the treasury, the gold and silver mines, and revenue from conquered lands. He also has a money method where he kills rich people from his own empire just to take their stuff.
Chad, this is not fair play, bro. I don't like this guy. Chad, who the hell is Augustus Caesar, bro? You need to chill out. So whatever he sees, he takes. I did not know he's the one that he killed Cleopatra. I'm gonna just stop talking. I love y'all. Yep, English is my second language. All right, cool.
He has a money method where he kills rich people from his own empire just to take their stuff. After Caesar passes in the year 14, he officially gets declared a god. A god with an estimated modern day net worth of $5 trillion. Yeah. But let's go back another 900 years. Civilization is in its early stages. Most people live short, difficult lives. Money in the form of coins doesn't yet exist. King Solomon rules over the kingdom of Israel, collecting gold by the ton. His yearly tax revenue is 666 talents of gold. He basks in his riches with his 700 wives, and in today's money, he's worth over $2 trillion. Damn! But this is all according to accounts in the Bible, written hundreds of years after he would have lived. When we're this far back in time,
I see. You remember what I said? Yo, what they be doing for fun over in those times? I see, bro. Has 7 or 700 wives? You know what I'm saying? Freaky King Solomon.
After he would have lived. When we're this far back in time, details get murky. Written accounts are sparse and incredibly biased. The richest man from ancient times will never really know. So, who is the richest person in history? Looking at this graph, it seems like there's a lot of people who make Elon look broke. But these numbers don't tell the whole story. Hear me out. In 1913, John D. Rockefeller was worth 2% of US GDP. Today, Elon Musk is worth 1.4% of US GDP. So Rockefeller had a larger share of the economy, making his inflation-adjusted net worth higher than Elon's. But here's the catch. The US economy today is 22 times larger than it was in 1913.
Oh my God, and if Musk owns 1% of that, 1.4% of this big ass shit, that is actually super impressive.
Rockefeller had a bigger slice of a much smaller pie. Estimated numbers don't tell the story of how the entire world has become more and more prosperous over time. Elon is now the biggest fish in the biggest pond that has ever existed. On top of this, his wealth is a personal fortune. It's well documented and verifiable, unlike ancient figures like King Solomon. It wouldn't disappear if he lost his positions of power, unlike dictators and heads of state. He can access it for whatever he wants, and he harnesses technology that ancient figures would think is witchcraft.
Crazy.
Elon is the richest person in history, with his 400 billion today. Eventually, someone will get even richer, but based on history, everyone else will get richer too.
Bro, yeah, Elon Musk is going crazy. I'm not gonna lie, especially with all of his projects. If he can normalize space travel, that is insane. Or perfect, sorry, not normalize. Well, it could be both. If he perfects it, then he can normalize it and make it a regular thing. But bro, to go to Mars, that's insane. He has SpaceX. That's what we need to get to Mars. He has Neuralink because he needs AI and stuff like that to communicate. And he has all these different satellites to communicate with the robots that he's gonna put on Mars. Then he has Tesla, which is an electric car company. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna make the robots and the things needed for terraforming Mars. Bro, y'all not even thinking, bro. Everything is interconnected. You know what I'm saying? Lock in, chat, or else you gonna have no money. Then he has Twitter to control the brains of the masses. And give them free speech. Chat, we still good. Y'all not woke, man. Y'all gotta wake up. Anyways, that was actually a fun video. I ain't gonna lie. Shout out Jack Pockets. Bro is really a pocket watcher. Cause look, all of his videos have to do with money. Celebrity car tier list. Bro, pocket watching cars. Billionaires who hate each other, bro, pocket watching parasocial behaviors. Billionaire yacht tier list, bro, pocket watching yachts. Could you spend $1 trillion, bro, pocket watching the damn everybody? What happens when you win the lottery? That was a good ass video. And yeah, pocket watching lottery winners and then pocket watching everybody, every rich person. All right, that was dope.